Honda was the only Japanese manufacturer to say that they were going to be fully battery electric by 2040. And their bet on a fully electric future did not pay off. Honda's back is against the wall as a result right now, and you throw tariffs into this situation, it's not helping their finances. And what happens to a wounded animal when it's cornered? Well, we're going to find out about Honda, and things are starting to happen already with the Japanese automaker. Will these changes catapult them into a newer and better Honda? Well, let's find out. And we have 4 massive articles of crazy things going on with Honda today. So we're going to break that down. But just keep in mind, it's not just Honda struggling with EVs and like improper investments into EVs. It's so many manufacturers, okay? Ford just posted its worst quarter since the Great Recession, okay? And look at Ford. I mean, net loss of 11.1 billion on EVs. Like, it is crazy how much money was wasted on EVs within these big time automakers that have so much sales volume here in the United States. So I'm not just taking shots at Honda here, but I think Honda's actually doing something quite radically to change their potential course. So we're going to start at automotive news. Honda's mounting EV losses force a fundamental review of automotive strategy as demand has really dried up for Honda and Acura. Well, I mean, Acura's lineup is just down to 3 cars at this point in time. Lack of hybrids, especially large platform hybrids, has hurt them. Honda's write-off in expenses for EVs was almost $2 billion, $1.71 billion in the 9 months ending December 31st. So the first 3 quarters of this current fiscal year, they're down $1.71 billion just from their EV miscalculations alone. What the crazy thing is, Honda EV sales fell to 15,000 vehicles in the last quarter. Toyota has now absolutely blown past. Now you got to keep in mind, Toyota's a sleeping giant when it comes to EVs. Toyota's also having a much better success selling EVs in China. Toyota has things like the BZ3X, which is $15,000, and Honda's EVs over in China are roughly like $40,000. They're way too expensive and not competitive in things like technology and ADAS systems. Honda's automobile business in the first 3 quarters is actually at an operating loss, meaning they're losing money. They're not making money. An operating loss of over $1 billion for the first 3 quarters. And Honda's automobile unit has notched 4 straight quarters of operating losses. That's a year straight of operating losses, a year straight of not making money. Actually, not just not making money, losing money. The company expects its EV business to lose about $4.5 billion just this fiscal year, which ends March 31st. Executive Vice President Noriya Kaihara said, "We need to conduct a fundamental review of our strategies and rebuild our competitive strength." And this is right after announcing a 61% drop in operating profit October through December, 3rd quarter fiscal year. And once this fiscal year is over, Honda's expecting 1.86 billion in EV losses. So keep that in mind, 1.86 billion on EV losses. How much are they losing on tariffs? Just a little bit more on tariffs. 1.98 billion they've lost on tariffs as well. And the crazy thing is Honda's not that affected. Yes, like $2 billion is a lot of money, but compared to other automakers like Mitsubishi or Subaru or even Mazda, okay, they're much more like affected by tariffs. Honda has considerable production here in the United States. Honda also has a lot of production in Canada and Mexico. And as of right now, those 2 countries get hit with a 25% import tariff. Okay, so what used to be a free trade agreement between Canada and Mexico, now, like, I don't know, let's say half of Honda's volume comes from Canada and Mexico. All right, so that's something totally out of their control. All right. So there's only so much you can do about tariffs in a short amount of time, right? Because they came out of left field. And you could say, hey, the lack of EV incentives, or the rolling back of no longer offering EV incentives here in the United States, that was out of Honda's control too. But you also have to just look at what the market demand is in that market you're selling it, EV tax credit or not. And Honda's, well, nearly $2 billion write-off on EVs they're expecting when this fiscal year is over, that's on them. This 1.86, nearly $2 billion write-off, that's mostly on Honda's gamble on having a lot of EVs as soon as possible. And remember, they were planning on building an EV mega hub in Canada. Okay, well, then tariffs happen and they put that on an indefinite hold. It might be canceled altogether at this point. It would make sense to me if they just canceled that multi-billion-dollar EV hub up in Canada. And what's crazy is, like, I just made a video recently with discussing how General Motors and Honda, that relationship's all but done. But even though it's like they're no longer collaborating on any more projects, from fuel cell to BEVs to the Origin autonomous vehicle, all that collaboration with General Motors is gone. But check this out. Honda is still wrestling with General Motors due to contract manufacturing. Remember, the Prologue, as well as the ZDX, they canceled the ZDX, but the Prologue is still built by General Motors down in Mexico. And they're expecting additional EV charges pending the outcome of negotiations with General Motors on the winding down of the cooperations on EVs. It's getting ugly between General Motors and Honda right now. Honda is reducing the procurement of GM produced Prologues. Obviously, the ZDX is gone. So Honda has to compensate GM, because GM and Honda are like, okay, you're going to build this many EVs for us from this time period to this time period. And now Honda's like, yeah, we can't incentivize these vehicles to the moon and lose so much money on them. It's better off to just not have nearly as much volume, kill the ZDX, and massively reduce the production volume of the Prologue. But General Motors saying, hey, no, you can't just back out of this. You owe us money. And the Prologue is being incentivized $17,000. Okay, the CRV is just $2,500 being incentivized. U.S. sales of the Prologue tumbled almost 90% in October through December. Here's the crazy thing. Honda has never sold fleet that I'm aware of. And Kaihara is saying Honda is going to have to increase incentive spending and dial up fleet sales. This is uncharted territory for Honda. Now, Honda's been one of the more stingy automakers to increase incentives, whether it's like low percent APRs or even cash on the hood. Well, they're going to have to improve that, as well as sell cars to fleet, meaning selling it to rental companies, selling it to corporations. The fleet thing, everyone sells fleet. Like, Honda's one of the few that never sold fleet. And fleet is kind of necessary to keep the plants running at maximum capacity. And when plants are running at maximum capacity, then you have reductions in cost. Okay, the more you mass produce something, the cheaper it gets. And Honda's never really had an issue. They've been able to sell retail, meaning to your neighbors, you and I, family members, just normal people. But that the demand has dropped off so much that they're having to sell to fleet now, like in huge volumes. Okay, I don't know how big these volumes are going to be. Okay, but we're going from zero fleet to them admitting they have to sell fleet. And fleet is not as profitable. Too much fleet can hurt residual values. If you watched Nissan, for example, Nissan's reducing their fleet volume, but it's tough to do because, again, you need to produce at a high volume because better scale leads to reduced production costs. But again, too much fleet, as Nissan was finding out, too much fleet destroys new car value. Okay, because if you're offloading a ton of fleet to rental companies who flip their new cars in a year or two, okay, that's going to devalue the new car value selling through dealerships and retail. You got to really keep in check how much fleet you sell, okay, in total. Otherwise, your value on your new cars on the retail side is just no longer there, okay? And people don't want to buy the fastest depreciating products out there. We hadn't really focused before on the area of fleet. We have to work on that to sell more cars in the fleet customer field. In 2024, Honda envisioned selling as many as 2 million EVs globally in 2030. But Miebei's Honda's CEO, he said last year the automaker now expected EV volume in 2030 to be about 700,000. Now Honda is saying that EV outlook is going to change again because even that's too high. Guys, mark your calendars. April 1st, okay, we'll get a recap of the full fiscal year, April 1st. Again, this is the third quarter recap. But on April 1st, Honda is going to have a new strategy, okay, and new expectations for hybrids as well as EV volume. And they intend to significantly revise their future EV strategy. The crazy, they haven't even started producing EVs in America yet. The RSX will be the first one, and the RSX was, so in my opinion, was supposed to be the new RDX, okay? And then they're like, well, the demand is not going to be there for that, so we actually need to keep an RDX around, but we're back to square one, and they're going to have to wait. There's going to be a time period, a massive time period where the RDX is not on the market, like 2-year gap. All right, so Acura dealers are going to be reeling, and they're not going to be able to sell the RSX. Like, even if it's one of the best EVs on the market, it doesn't matter because the market does not care that much for EVs. It's very niche, all right? And there's so much competition now. So much competition in the EV landscape. Like Tesla has, right, some of the best EVs. They're struggling. Rivian, good EVs from what I hear. They are struggling. Lucid, I've tested Lucid, pretty good EV, pretty questionable build quality. They are struggling. Now, Honda's new hybrids coming in 2027 will feature next-gen automated driving technologies, and Honda aims to double hybrid sales to 2.2 million in 2030. All right, that's good. That's great news. And sadly for Honda, their hybrids have stagnated, okay, year over year, and their EVs went down about half from what it was. So hybrid production has stagnated. They just don't have the capacity right now to make more hybrids than what they currently are. So that they're capped right now in providing hybrids, even though the market is demanding more. Okay, got to keep in mind Honda also wants to sell more affordable models this year. That means non-hybrid models and decontented lower trim models of like the Accord, maybe the Civic, HRV, etc. Because, well, affordability is a big issue right now. And obviously EVs being very expensive and low demand, that's a recipe for just wasting money, as we know. So sales in North America, Honda's top market, declined 18% to 355,000 vehicles in this past period. Europe sales rose to 18,000, which is 18,000. It's like insignificant. Honda barely has any volume in Europe, and Japan even slipped to 152,000. They were down about 25%. It doesn't say it in this article, but they were down about 25% in China, which is one of the worst results among Japanese automakers still selling in China. Kaihara said Honda EVs were unfortunately losing to local EV manufacturers in terms of price competitiveness, like I mentioned, versus like even a Toyota, not even mentioning like a BYD or Chery or Li Auto, etc. Right? There's so much competition in China. So they're losing on price competitiveness. If you lose on price competitiveness in the Chinese market, you're done. It's over. But they were not only losing on that, they're losing on software development, user interface, and user experience. So they're losing on every single front with EVs in China. The only thing saving Honda right now is motorcycles. Their operating profit in motorcycles was about 450 billion yen for the 9-month period, up 9% year on year, driven by strong sales in emerging markets such as India and Brazil. Operating profit margin, guys, profit margins for their motorcycles is nearly 20%. That is fantastic. So here's one of the changes we're already seeing. It's not April 1st yet. Again, we're going to see such a radical outlook for Honda and a change April 1st. But look at some of the changes that's already happening. Honda to move automotive development to research and development unit, spurring innovation. And guys, this is them just going back to what originally made Honda automobiles successful. Honda automotive development originally was handled by the R&D subsidiary, but in 2020, parent company Honda absorbed automotive development and took it away from the R&D subsidiary. That tells me like they took away like a lot of the good ideas that can make Honda competitive, and they left the whole company in the hands of the bean counters. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. So this move will grant a higher level of independence to the automotive development team. Thank the heavens. Okay, Honda's designs have been a bit stale lately, to say the least, as well as like a lack of just large platform hybrids. Okay, so exterior design is one thing, but we need better independence to develop better vehicles. And Honda R&D will establish an integrated structure spanning from advanced research through development and a move designed to promote free thinking and innovative technological development. This is more Western approach to this, in my opinion. More of a Silicon Valley approach to this. You're not going to be criticized for your great ideas about, hey, how can I make this Honda vehicle better? So promote free thinking. Free thinking is going to help Honda win and get back on track, instead of being buttoned up and your lips sealed on maybe some of your most talented and smartest people. They're going to have more control now instead of being controlled by the bean counters. Again, that's how I see it. I could be wrong. But Honda R&D was established in 1960 as a spinoff from the parent company, and Soichiro himself was in charge of this spinoff. So you have this relationship with R&D having, okay, they have a budget, and then they just roll with it and do everything they can to maximize technology and development within that budget. And you'd have Honda, and the R&D unit would generate new designs for new product, and then Honda would just take the blueprints, take these designs, and figure out how to manufacture these vehicles, and they would handle the sales. All right, so you had a very healthy like yin and yang relationship. And then in 2020, the balance was completely gone, with, let's say, the yen taking over the yang completely. And we see a struggling Honda in today's market as a result. So the Honda Group was able to conduct research without being swayed by business performance. This is key. Innovations included the development of engines that met strict low emission regulations and giving rise to Honda's reputation for technological prowess. Honda lost in 2020. They lost the plot. They lost track of what made them so great. And maybe it was a little bit of ego thinking, we don't need the R&D to handle the automotive. We're fine. We got this. Like, let's just scale back, R&D. And that was a huge, huge mistake. So in 2020, Honda relocated the automotive development division into the parent company. And at the time, the broader automotive business was struggling, and Honda sought to improve development efficiency. One of the reasons Honda wants to put automotive development back to the R&D side of things, okay, because of changes in the global auto industry, with Chinese rivals such as BYD demonstrating remarkable price competitiveness. They have to do something to keep up with the Chinese. But even more importantly, that's just on like BEV end. It's just on BEV end. Here in North America, they have to find ways to be competitive in our hybrid-focused market, our truck-focused market. We'll see what Honda does. Last year, Chinese manufacturers won the top spot in global new vehicle sales for the first time, taking the crown from Japanese brands. The US and China are also leading autonomous driving and other next-gen technologies, leaving Honda and other Japanese manufacturers in the dust. Apparently, Honda and Nissan are still talking. and they want to work together on software and North American production. Great. Have Nissan contract manufacture some vehicles for you. It's okay. Put your pride aside, and like Nissan has all of this production capacity in Smyrna, Tennessee, and in Canton, Mississippi. Find a way to make something work. Do some badge engineering, and if you need to rebadge a Rogue to reduce tariffs, then do it. Okay? Or better yet, Honda and Nissan co-develop this body-on-frame platform that the Xterra is going to be on. Give Honda a slice of that pie. Nissan would absolutely love for the new Passport to be a clone of the upcoming Pathfinder. Makes sense to me, just unique Honda styling, unique Nissan styling. That new body-on-frame platform is going to do wonders for Nissan. Mark my words, it will do wonders for Nissan. And Honda, they have the opportunity to ride that wave, and they won't have to invest massively. Okay, just pay Nissan to make some of those body-on-frame vehicles, which are going to have V6 hybrid, possibly plug-in hybrid or e-rev. It's just these companies can't figure out how to work together. And here's the last bit of news. I know this is a long update, but I'm passionate for Honda. I want Honda to succeed. Honda taps CFO Eiji Fujimura to lead key U.S. market amid turbulence. What? We get and this will start April 1st. Again, the new outlook for Honda again starts April 1st. Well, we get so many more updates. Honda Motor Co. has tapped CFO AG, what is called AG-san, to lead its critical U.S. operations as the automaker navigates intensifying market headwinds, including affordability pressures, tariffs, and slumping EV demand. So AG-san is moving to the role of Senior Managing Executive Officer and CEO of American Honda Motor on April 1st. This is huge. He succeeds Takezawa-san, who will become Honda's Motor Chief Officer of Automobile Operations and Risk Management. Okay, Takezawa has run American Honda, since 24. So less than 2 years, or maybe 2 years exactly by the time this change happens. Takezawa did not last very long. It seems like maybe the board or something internally at Honda saying, we need a radical change here in North America. We need better leadership. Fujimura is familiar with the U.S. market from a previous stint as Chief Officer for Regional Operations in North America. The executive brings expertise in finance, accounting, and international business management. This is very similar. Toyota just put a money guy in charge of all of Toyota. The new CEO for Toyota is a finance guy. Honda's doing the same thing for their North American division. So Honda wants to adjust product mix and ramp up output of lower price gasoline trims for the core models, the Civic and CR-V, like I mentioned just a little bit ago, while reducing the share of higher cost hybrids and the entry-level offerings. I mean, that to me sounds like the hybrids are going to be increasingly locked into higher trim levels, if I'm reading that properly. And if I'm understanding it properly, reducing the share of higher cost hybrids and entry-level offerings, that's not good. That's not good in my opinion. Okay, because those are Honda's best vehicles right now, is their hybrids. And if you're saying, oh, well, we're going to reduce the amount of trim levels of them and lock them away into the more premium, like that's not going to work. Because if you look at the RAV4, the RAV4 is fully hybrid now. Okay, you get the same great powertrain on the base models you do on the high end. It's not going to work when you have other competitors in the market. I hear the new Tucson. We'll see though. But I just heard that the new Tucson, which is coming in 2027, is going to be fully hybrid as well, with plug-in hybrid technology potentially. This doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense to me. They need to get more hybrids on the market in more trim levels. But if they're just going to say, hey, we're gonna expand our entry-level gas models and further separate the hybrids, lock away the hybrids into higher cost, higher profit trims, I just don't know. If that's the plan, I just don't think that's going to work, honestly. But let's keep moving. Honda is now projecting U.S. sales of its Prologue to be around 18,000 units this year, which is less than half of the 39,000 that it sold in 2025. And remember, not only are those models being incentivized 17 grand or whatever it was, those Prologues, they're contract manufactured through General Motors, so that has a cost. And then you have to pay tariffs too. Okay, 25% tariffs from those EVs coming in from Mexico. So like that vehicle, and that's why they killed the ZDX in a heartbeat, but the ZDX was at least built in the United States in Spring Hill, Tennessee, but like this vehicle is real, and that's why they have to really have the production volume versus last year, because these things are just way too costly in a market that is not asking for more EVs. So rising U.S. tariffs on imported vehicles and parts further add pressure, prompting Honda to explore expanded domestic manufacturing capacity to help offset potential cost increases and maintain competitiveness. So I don't know if you guys remember when the tariffs started, Trump was saying, yeah, like Honda's building the biggest, manufacturing plant. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And like Honda's like, we never said that. We never said that. Okay, so does this mean this little paragraph here, Honda to explore expanded domestic manufacturing capacity? Does that mean that they're going to build a new plant here? No, there's ways to expand domestic manufacturing capacity without building a plant. Okay, running hotter, running more shifts, running on the weekend is one way to do it. But also working with someone like Nissan, who has so much production capacity that's unused. That makes most sense to me. But in order to do that, like you have to have insane collaboration. These companies can barely get anything done within their own company. So how do you expect two companies that struggle to make good decisions, all right, how do you expect them to work together to get something done, all right? That's why collaborations between automakers is so rare, and it's so slow, because they have these two massive oil tankers or shipping container boats, and they turn and move at a snail's pace, all right, and they're oftentimes going in different directions. How do you expect them to come together and latch up in the middle of the ocean and work together to, let's say, reduce the waves of the market? It's just very difficult to do, but it has to be done in today's day and age. Otherwise, these companies are going to go, to the bottom of the ocean. They need to collaborate better, faster, and more efficiently. And they mentioned the choppy waters here, like the final sentence. The new CEO here in North America, Fujimura, is going to have to navigate the business through choppy waters. That's funny. I just mentioned my ocean reference with oil tankers or shipping container boats. And they also mentioned Honda, American Honda treading water in the U.S. last year. Sales inching up 0.5% to 1.4 million. It's not bad. It's not good either. It's merely is. It merely is. Okay, you don't want to be merely is. You want to always be tracking upwards, which isn't possible. It's not possible in the world, right? Tesla thought that they were going to track upwards indefinitely until they had 20 million vehicles a year. I never bought that for a second. You had to be drinking some Kool-Aid or taking something to believe that Tesla would just every year double. That's never how anything in production has ever worked, especially when you're talking about car manufacturing. So Honda, though, they want to grow to about 1.5 million vehicles in 2026, up 4%. And they even are expecting Acura to grow, which I don't think that they're going to, because the RDX is gone, ZDX is gone. What else? There's something else gone. Oh, the TLX is gone. So I don't think Acura is going to be positive in 2026. I just can't wrap my head around it when half of their models that they had the year before are gone. We're going to see Honda continue to make some big shuffling, especially April 1st. How they're going, what announcements can they make? I have no idea. They're struggling in China. There's no quick remedy for that. They don't have the large platform hybrids here in the United States. They never went body on frame here, which they have the opportunity to do with Nissan. So hopefully they can put away their differences and work together to survive both of those companies, even though the mergers fell apart late last year. And spinning off, once again, the automotive development to the research and development arm of Honda is the best news out of all of it. We need Honda's greatest and brightest minds to be able to think more freely, to develop more freely, and to create better products and more competitive products. And hopefully it's not just focused for the Chinese market, focused on BYD. Like that's, even BYD is not doing great right now. Okay, so look past BYD and remember Honda's biggest market, most important market is not China, where BYD is very successful. It is here in North America. They need to put their best foot forward in the United States. The only best foot forward, unfortunately, for Honda right now is through their motorcycle division. If they didn't have a 20% profit margin essentially in their motorcycle division, Honda Automotive would be gonzo. Okay, their motorcycles are funding their automobile division, which is losing money. Again, I think they said 4 straight quarters of operating losses for the automobile division. When's that going to end? I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll figure out the new trajectory of Honda April 1st. In the meantime, there's some excitement, or some, okay, the new Prelude on the market, the refreshed Pilot's good. Then we have the Acura RSX later in the year, but that vehicle it's like a reminder of Honda's gamble that they took on EVs that didn't work out, the new RSX. And their 0 Series EVs, I think, have been delayed. They're like, oh, shoot, we're in no hurry to make the 0 Series EVs, even though the Marysville, Ohio plant has been massively reworked in order to build gas, hybrid, and the 0 Series EVs. It's good to see Honda at least making some changes in these turbulent times. Okay, but there needs to be more change in order for Honda to reclaim its greatness that we all remember from the 80s and 90s. They have a long ways to go, and their backs up against the wall, like I mentioned in the beginning. Are they going to fight tooth and nail, or are they going to continue to get walloped on by the changing of the global markets? Time will tell. Thank you guys. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Yes, and I'm even wearing a Honda shirt. Okay, it's a long sleeve shirt. It's cold here where I'm at in California, and it's keeping me toasty. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe out there, guys, and peace.